Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the new and improved Dicey Discussions format, where we've gone full podcast. Full podcast, isn't that right?
Indeed.
With my co-host, Andrew Schaefer.
Hello.
He's officially a co-host. He can't get on my channel if he wants to. I've totally made him sign a binding contract. He is mine.
Indeed.
Yep. Today we will be talking about planning campaigns and how you may over-plan and how to more incorporate improv. Having trouble with my words here, Andrew. You want to take over?
Sure. Today we will be talking. Today we will be talking about planning and how some people can overplan and how to kind of shift that burden over is to improvise and how improvising can improve your games actually fold out as you play it. Also, we have metagaming and how metagaming can be sometimes good in the hands of GMs and how it's a kind of a touchy topic between players and GMs, how it affects gameplay, and then finally the creation of NPCs and how you can create reoccurring NPCs, villains, and all kinds of NPCs.
Yes, thank you for doing that, Andrew. I am terrible at English.
So, should we talk about planning?
Oh, planning. It's one of my favorite things to do when creating a world, specifically the planning of the world and creating like the different nations and how the government works and all that. It's one of my favorite things to do when creating a world for, be it Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder.
Yes.
Even if you just want to take the Mistborn role-playing series, just take their rules and create your own world.
Yeah. The thing that I often find myself when it comes to planning is, however, I set a very large goal and then I never meet up to it because, well, there's a life too that I have to participate in. So
What's this life you're talking about? I thought it was school in D&D. I thought that's what you had.
Well, yeah, that's what.
And now Wendy's.
Yeah, now Wendy's. So pretty much I don't have a life anymore. But that being said, because of the other things that I have to do, I don't always get to meet my aspirations for how I want to plan out a game. So I think improvisation and literally just thinking about it when you go places is a great way to actually think about the world, because it's more about ideas rather than it is about specific facts. When you're running a module, or maybe you're planning for specific quests, let's say in an environment, maybe 3 quests, plan those specific details, but generally just keep to ideas. That's what I found helps.
I feel it's always good when if you're doing the full-blown, like, you're creating your own world. Homebrew is the term. To always create, like, instead of going key-specific details, you start highly general, like, how many nations are you going to have? How many continents are there? Then, like, you give names to those certain places. That way, you can make reference to them later. And should the players go there, then you start to detail it out more. Like, you detail the starting city you're in and maybe a few areas around that. Yeah. That way you have stuff to work with. But always have, like, a sort of general basis for what you are going to have in the future. That way you can maybe allude to it.
Yeah, starting small, but you're right. Having these overarching themes helps, too, because you can allude to future conflicts and future events that might occur. That's like the problem that is you might confront later when you're a higher level, because there's the levels of play where it's like, oh, well, you're just helping a small village. Now it's like you're helping a kingdom. Now you're helping the world.
Oh, now you're
helping the multiverse.
Multiverse, yeah. You're grand heroes now. Level 20. Have fun. Something that always annoys me is some people, they'll create the world, right? And they'll only have, like, the fluid motion of time in the area the players are at. The stuff won't progress around them that they're not at. And I feel like you should always have that progression, no matter if the players are there or not. That creates a more living world to live in.
And it's more importantly expressing it in an entertaining way. Like, it's kind of like hinting or, foreshadowing, to those things. You have to, it takes a very clever and creative dungeon master, game master to throw that in there. To signal to the players that this is not only something that's happening, but something that might influence them, because then they might feel like they need to deal with it. And, it creates conflict, setting priorities. It's a difficult thing for the players.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So, moving aside from, like, world building, the planning from that, to moving on to, like, more of planning quests and the such, what are your typical methods for doing that?
Okay.
How do you go about doing that?
So, let's see. Usually, what I will do is I'll actually derive it from the environment that they're set in and the problems because that's what I like to do is create a setting and then inherent to that setting have problems. and maybe there'll be a problem that a particular NPC needs to be solved in the current moment, but then somehow that is contrived, or it's thrown into the overall problem that this area is currently solving, currently troubled by. And so I think that's a great way to get the players involved with the setting, get them thinking about the big picture, things like that.
That's always good. I kind of do it almost in the reverse of you. I tend to think of the big picture first, and it's like, how would I get the players to get involved into this, and then say, it's like, all right, so maybe this one organization's having this problem. They hired the players to go solve it. The players find out more, and then it's like, oh my god, the world's in danger.
Yeah,
I need to do something. Or in the case of what you did in my former campaign, not solve the problem.
Well, I mean, of course, there's responsibilities that players need to shoulder, and sometimes they
just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah, but
maybe see a nice kingdom turn into Confederate states. No big deal.
Well, it turns interesting though for future campaigns, right, Michael?
Yeah. It's not like you're probably never going to go back there again.
Well, but once again, we were talking how the things that are outside the borders of where you are currently can influence where you're currently at,
where you're currently at, and where you may be going in the future.
Yeah. So I think it's quite interesting, and then also that's having players develop themselves with the setting, and it's like how they react to moral quandaries.
Yes,
and so it's when they have the situation where it's like maybe greed or expediency versus, sacrificing a bunch to possibly, and that's the big word, possibly save a kingdom or a confederacy or the world,
perhaps even the multiverse.
Well, I mean, you can live, what is it, the Outer Realms? You can live there, right? And just...
You can live there, yes.
Yeah, and just let the multiverse burn.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't that be included in the multiverse?
Well, what's it like, I could pull up the diagram, but it's like the veils of existence or something. So like outside of like all the specific like individual planes that are beyond the elements in the outer realms, there's like the vacuum basically. It's not even limbo, it's the vacuum. And it's just like nothingness. Right. So I suppose you die because of a lack of oxygen, but who knows, magic, right?
Magic. You got there.
Yeah.
So now you brought up the interesting point of what the players have to do. And that makes me want to bring into, like, even before you start your first game, the pre-planning there that the players have to shoulder to. And that's the backstory. The goddamn backstory. That a lot of players don't do, even though it helps get them a place in the world.
Yeah. That's the thing. Backstory is just, they really make the player a part of the world, and it helps them enjoy the game. And oftentimes players look at it in a pessimistic manner because... Well, a lot of players like to just go in and bash stuff and, enjoy and say, hey, I'm playing D&D and rolling dice. But really, the core of the game is like, you understanding your place in the world and then going forward and solving problems as a character. And backstory is key to that.
Yeah. And not only does it help them cement their foothold into the world itself, but it also will help them gain a prior knowledge to the world that you've created. Mm-hmm. Stuff they know. That way you don't have to explain it more in the session. Even though, I hate to say it, while we make our players create backstories, we don't really give them much information to go off of.
Yeah.
It's like, you create what you want, then I'll incorporate what you put into the world. That way you know what you created, I know what you created.
Well that's the issue.
It's a valid way to do it, but it'd be more effective if you created the world and said, like, alright, here's some of the cities you could have been born into. Were you like a part of a thieves guild? Were your parents murdered at birth? Did you somehow become the Batman vigilante of your town?
Well, yeah, see, and then the issue is that, going along with the whole, like, planning and over-planning thing is that you could give them, like, a written encyclopedia of your place, right? And you could say, all right, so here's the world, this is every precise detail about, the world, and, if you want to go to a thieves guild, here's where all the thieves guilds might be, or, clans of thieves. Or if you want to, be a paladin of a holy Templar order, here's where you could find that. So it's oftentimes that's a lot of planning, and the DMs don't necessarily have that at their
disposal.
Disposal. So you oftentimes, what DMs, like you said, have to do is they have to take the backstory they've written and then kind of mesh it in to what the
Which
has
Which
conceptualized.
also has the plus side of helping the DM plan a little more.
Mhm.
It's like now the world's a little more fleshed out, and he or she can run off the ideas that you currently get.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is that players can help define the world, especially in places that have not been charted yet, and that can help even create future quests. And that's another thing is that if you have a party that has a linked backstory, you can actually have much more interesting quests because there's a common goal. I've often seen that you have parties that like to have nice, cool individual characters, but there's not like really a reason why they should be coordinated together. So it's really hard for them to even like go forward to a particular goal because there's no shared interest.
Right. Why, Andrew? That's when the train tracks come down from the sky and you go all aboard the
Yeah,
railroad.
yeah. That's how you do it, right?
That is how you literally had to do that this year. With we had an issue with split party, and you had to teleport through magical means half the players back to the party.
Yes, and that's regrettable
because one of them just wouldn't go back. Yeah. Not naming names here, but
yeah.
And the other one kind of got stuck along with the one that wouldn't go back.
Yeah,
and it was kind of bad.
It's indeed bad, and so I think that's another reason. And all these things that we're talking about, I feel are alluding to one particular thing that more parties need, more gaming groups need, and that is the holy session zero, where it's like you just sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, the holy session zero.
But the thing is that some groups have troubles even like sitting down at the table because so many people have plans, so it's really hard to get people together. But if you can't sit down and talk about it, maybe have a Skype call going on with everybody in it or something. Try to get people together to talk about what they want from the game and how the game's going to proceed, things like that.
The one issue with the Holy Session Zero, if you set everyone down, they might come to the whole notion is like, well, we're already here, why don't we just play?
Oh yeah, and
it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah,
because it's like we managed to get everyone together. Let's do the damn first session.
And that's fine. I think that if you want your session zero to be maybe 20 minutes, like say, okay guys, this is how I was wanting this game to be. I have a campaign that's say a medieval fantasy with I don't know, a dark lord. That's very typical, but you have a basic layout of what you think the world might be like. And the players say, well, that sounds quite interesting. Can I make this character? And they say, oh, that's a good idea. Let's, coordinate our characters. And it all works out. And then you can proceed with the session if you want, if it only took 20 or 30 minutes.
Right.
So, you think that...
I feel like that covers planning in a good sense. And we shall move on to our next topic of creating D&D or Pathfinder or whatever NPCs, not the player characters, but the ones they'll interact with. Mm-hmm. And we'll get right to that after I go check and make sure everything's okay. And we're back. Sorry for the interruption, but we're recording off the glorious Samsung Galaxy S7 phone, and we want to make sure everything goes according to plan because we've had some issues in the past.
Yes. So now, moving on to D&D Pathfinder general role-playing game
NPC
non-player characters. So, Michael, I like to have non-player characters with a personality and a goal. I feel those are the two main components, but it's important to get attitudes and I guess tics as well. But what do you think about NPCs?
I think you should, in a town, you should always create a certain amount of NPCs. The town will have probably 5,000 residents or whatever, 2,000, whatever, depending on the size of the place you're at. But you should always have some very specific, unique individuals that they should interact with, like shopkeepers, maybe some people that'll pass by, people that are a part of a guild maybe, and they're just wandering through the town. The traveling merchant's always a fun one.
Oh, yes.
Would you like to sample my wares?
And, the swindler and all those good things.
Or, if your party is a bit into creating drugs, you always have your drug dealer that they somehow manage to just, for whatever reason, decide, let's kill him!
Yeah.
For no reason!
Well, I mean, no reason. Getting the goods is kind of
That was not your reason. You jumped in because your party member attacked him, my friend.
True. That is true.
You were just like, well, it's my one friend. I've been friends with him for 3 years. I've betrayed my family twice.
Yeah.
Magic missile wand, let's kill him.
But, I feel like, actually, NPCs brings up a good point regarding improvisation, and you mentioned is, you'll have, 5,000 NPCs, but you only have, maybe 5 to 10 core NPCs. I mean, 20 if you're really into it, but, there's only so much you can do, and oftentimes the parties like to go to various places. And so when I make an NPC on the fly, I usually try to go for one or two things, and one is to be comical, because it's make a character that is kind of interesting or wacky or weird in a way that will drive the party to not interact with them normally. They have to somehow get around the fact that they're being weird or stupid. Because, that's one more problem they have to deal with, and it's kind of interesting for them to overcome. And then the second is that it's rather than being weird or wacky, it might be a literal confrontational problem, or maybe even just a problem of, let's say, not coordination, but just how the inherent flaws in the system or government, like that. So that's what I try to do. Make encounters kind of troubling in a way that can be interesting for the players. But
that is a good way to do it, and I do that on occasion, where sometimes I'll create an NPC that you'll encounter through random encounter, which I don't know if you remember this specific one. He was a nice dwarf with a two-piece suit, ran an underground fighting ring. I believe he went by the name Reginald.
Yes.
Yeah, he was. He was just a guy who was like, all right, let's have some fun with this random encounter. The dwarf guy. All right, cool. Go at it. Well, what's so special about him? What's an underground fighting ring? He's a dwarf. Wears a two-piece suit. He's also a rogue. That was the interesting part about him. He wasn't your typical fighting dwarf.
Mm-hmm.
He was your rogue, sleight of hand.
Yeah.
I'll throw a dagger at your face, kind of guy. And if I remember correctly, you all went into a cave and he kind of owned the town.
Yes, but that's Reginald is such a great example for the fact that Reginald, as I understand, is a random NPC, right?
He was random, yeah.
Yeah. Is that
I just made him on the fly?
Is that when your characters get attached to a particular NPC, don't be afraid to keep them. You don't have to toss random NPCs. It's because I didn't put enough development into him. I didn't give him a motive. It's if you can somehow weave him into the story mid-session or even after this particular session, but as the story progresses, by all means do so, because your players are going to enjoy the game more.
Yeah. I remember after that session, I went back to my computer and was like, all right, they seem to like Reginald. What else is special about him? And then I went to typing away for an hour and a half.
Excellent.
And it was all right, now I know Reginald like the back of my hand. Let's see if I can find another way to get him back in. And he showed up. He showed up the one other time in that old campaign when you all were going to the research facility. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, this is your typical medieval fantasy thing. It was a research facility in the sense of they were finding artifacts and finding out more about them. You went to him because the facility was being attacked, and you had no means of getting there in time. And Reginald's underground fighting arena was there, where you currently were on your travels, and you were like, "Yo, you got any horses?" They had horses, and you went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's quite interesting. I have to say, making sure that your players, get... It doesn't even have to be liked in the sense of, it's, I personally like this guy as a character or even as a player, but it's like in the sense of you understand their role in the world and you've come to see that they're either a good adversary or a good ally, or even a good, let's say, neutral in the sense that it's, yes, they're not trying to harm you, but they have an obligation that implicitly blocks your way,
Right.
So it's they're doing their job, but it's not...
It's not necessarily harming you, but it's not also benefiting.
Yeah, precisely.
It's like that, it's like a roadblock, essentially. Mm-hmm. It's I can either take the left path or the right path, or I can barrel through this guy and see if I can get there that way.
Yeah.
Creating a good NPC, for me, it's always creating the one that the players... They might not necessarily know they enjoy him. He might be that recurring character that's always the thorn in the side, and it's hey, did you guys miss me? No, go die, please. But it's he'll come back, and his personality is so well created that they could throw anything at him, and I'll always have a response for it. Yeah. It'll be I know this NPC well enough that I can just basically become him in the situation. It makes role playing that person easier for me, and it'll help the flow between like the player and the NPC go a lot better. That's like a good NPC to me.
Okay, I just thought about this while you're talking, and I'm wondering what you think of it. It's kind of a little bit off topic, but what do you think of the idea of player characters retiring their character, or even if it's like a character that's just no longer in your group and he had some other obligation, and then you retire their character as an NPC that is somehow like operable in the world and might even be involved in quests?
I'm always for that, and there is the instance now where you and it's now just solely you are playing a old character from a different campaign, and you move to a new continent is what it was. So I had thought about it before, and I was like, all right, the other party members probably fled from this area too. It would make sense. How many went to the same area as you did? How many may have got there before you? How many are going to show up late? Or have any of them gone like astray into the evil side? It's like, all right, I thought it through, and it's like, will you run into them? And maybe depends on where you go.
It'd be very interesting to confront my earlier party members as enemies.
Yeah, it's
that would be.
It's like, what are you doing? You're helping the bad guy. Ah, child. You see good and evil as constants. No.
Come to the dark side. We have cookies.
We have cookies and world domination.
All right.
Yeah. So that's creating NPCs in a nutshell. But I want to know from you. You'll have your town full of like 5,000 NPCs. But what necessarily makes it like when one gets thrown into the mist randomly? How do you cope with that? What do you throw at the NPC? Like how do you more develop them on the fly?
Oh, okay. So like, let's say I have an NPC in an unexpected situation.
Yes.
Is that what I'm? Okay. So first, it's I think kind of, and this I'll take kind of from theater and acting. Is like you want to get into the personality of that character. And usually I can actually separate it into class in town settings, and then from class you also have another spectrum, which is like loyalty to, let's say, the socio-political law, and then like somebody who's an outcast. So class, you have like the poor and the rich, so that can be more defined in like posh or kind of lowly peasant. That's how I like to look at it. So somebody who's posh doesn't really want to be bothered with the troubles of little people, and oftentimes will care about themselves more than others, unless you have, like, say, the noble paladin or the noble knight. But that's a kind of a different section altogether. That's like right in the middle. And then the poor people, it's like, well, they're a little bit sympathetic, but they also don't want to necessarily like go out and solve other people's problems. Heroes, like player characters, are their own little category. So they are noble in the sense that they'll help other people's problems, but they might want to get a little bit of compensation. And then you've got the outcast and the let's say citizen, basically somebody who's involved in society. So the citizen is going to definitely like maybe favor either trying to not be a problem or help, and then the outcast is trying to be advantageous, like take advantage of a problem. So when I have like an NPC, like let's say a count, who maybe he's like a person who is, yes, he is up on the social hierarchy, like he's posh, but he's also a corrupt count. Like he doesn't really care about his people. So on my spectrum, maybe he's not an outcast, but he is also a person who will definitely take advantage of things. If that count is in the middle of, I don't know, a gold transportation that has gone wrong and some robbers are taking it, and maybe he sends his guards to defend it, but he says, oh, we need to seize this caravan for evidence. So he takes the caravan and the gold, and then he keeps it. You need to make sure that you understand the position of your NPC and how he thinks, generally speaking, so that you have a good understanding as to how he'll react to situations. I'm sorry it's so long, but that's my explanation.
All right, now I want to throw this at you. Let's say something went down in a town, right? And your players, they pull some random dude you've never planned for. It's just like, all right, so who's passing by the street? Oh, you see blah blah blah. He's in like tight clothes. All right, grab him. And they start to have like a lengthy discussion with this new NPC that you've never created before, and it takes probably like 10 minutes. How would you go about like fleshing out the NPC during that conversation? Would you like start to think as you're going, is like, all right, what's special about them? What have they done in the past? What might I like allude to? Like, Is like
Yeah.
they're let's say the players start questioning him about like thieves or whatever that might be running amok in the town. The NPC could start to like dodge the questions because maybe he used to run with them.
Yeah.
Like that's the sort of thing that might have to occur. And I
Well-
want to know how you'd handle it.
Okay, so this is an interesting thing. Let's say that you're running like a game where you have like this little mini thieves quest on the side, or maybe it's even the prime objective. But you have this guy that looks like a normal person. So let's say, because usually that's what I'll do when somebody pulls aside a random, like a completely random NPC and starts talking to him. I usually have him be the standard Joe. Like he's just a townsperson trying to mind his own business, go about his day. And so I have the voice that kind of goes along with it. He might be a little bit not southern, but kind of like rural and not say his words very well defined, kind of all. But anyway, so from there you need to build off of what you've already said. You can't just change the character. I mean, if you do, you're running a risky line of plot inconsistency. From there, you can maybe they're asking about the thieves guild, and he's dodging the questions, like you said. It could be that you can help the players get to your plot line because let's be honest, you're not railroading. You're trying to make the session go better by them doing something you've actually planned, rather than a completely irrelevant quest that you don't have planned and could go bad because there's nothing that you really can go off of than the stuff you create up. So you try to like maybe say, look, I don't want any more questions. All I want is okay. There's a den below the sewers, Thieves gather there, they smuggle drugs there, and then they sell them to people on the streets. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Just leave me be. Something like that, where he alludes to something that the players were after already, or that you have already planned out so that they are both interested and the plot can go forward.
All right, that's a good way to put it. It's like, say they pull the random NPC off. You may want the NPC to move the plot along, as opposed to just having him be that guy that doesn't know anything, can't help the players. Players, go try and find the NPC I actually wanted you to find.
Yeah.
Sort of situation. It's like, get the plot moving so that the session can actually be more enjoyable, as opposed to, again, just like that. You as the DM don't know what you're doing. The players have no idea what they're doing. It's a whole mess of what the hell's going on.
And I hate to say it, but this kind of segues good into our other topic about metagaming and how let's say this. You have a plot where you wanted them to talk to a specific NPC, and this NPC was supposed to be maybe the leader of like a bunch of thieves or something, or maybe it was an agent of this smuggling den or whatever. But instead, the players confront this character, and what we just said, where we basically give him the plot hook, where it's like, okay, so this is what's happening. You can change your script or whatever that your notes to the fact that now he's the agent that was just like in the tavern, and maybe next session or midway while the players are just talking amongst themselves, you can change the plot so that now things are revolving around that NPC as a rather than the person you had earlier, or maybe that was that NPC, whatever. But the game master has the the advantage of looking at the whole picture and then being able to change it because the players don't know everything about the setting quite yet.
Right. It's like that's sort of the whole thing with GM versus player metagaming. It's like when the players do it, they're trying to take knowledge that them as a person know, as opposed to what the character would know. But the GM is everyone. So when it comes to like a plot line, it's like, all right, I'm just gonna not have it be this person. I'll have it be this person instead. That way the plot line can show up a lot quicker than it would normally, or just not have at all. That sort of it shows that it's like player metagaming. I personally can't ever see a good point to it because like you'll start talking about things your character wouldn't know, but perhaps one character would know, and then it's like you're trying to goad that one person into doing what you wanted to do but couldn't because you didn't know, as opposed to the GM who's always like, I'm just going to switch the role of these two people. Now the story can move along.
Yeah. I mean, see, player metagaming is usually, like you said, bad. But there are some moral quandaries that I can see that emerge from it in the sense like, for example, let's say I was talking earlier about how some groups don't really like to work together on particular objectives because they're different people. Like they don't share values. You might have the chaotic evil and the lawful good in the same party. On occasion, you might have those players say, okay, look, we know we're like completely different players with completely different objectives, but this is the quest that's before us. Fuck it, let's just do this particular quest and then move on with our lives. And you know, that's really bad because the players aren't expressing their motive, and when they're doing the quest, they might act like they're doing something else. You know, but act like they're not how their character would. That's what I'm trying to say. And you know.
That then now you're getting into the issue with players not like alignment is a thing that I like, but I also don't like because a lot of players from our personal experience tend to either not follow the alignment and just kind of do what they want and end up falling into chaotic evil, or they follow the alignment to like the fine point and it becomes annoying. It becomes annoyingly just in the way of what everyone else is trying to do. So you have that lawful good, not even like paladin or anything, like that lawful good druid who stops everything you try to do.
Yeah, he's just like calling you out when you're trying to do the things that would like advance your character. That's even said, that they're developing.
It also doesn't help if the DM's against you. I'm not speaking from personal experience or anything.
Well, it's a good thing you are.
Andrew.
So in any case, but yeah, you know, and that's one of the other things I advocate for parties that kind of have a shared goal or shared value or shared identity. You know, identity is a little bit far because, well, you don't want a completely homogenous party. You want individuals that are expressing themselves, but you know, having a party that is completely all over the place, like you got your lawful neutral, your chaotic neutral, your good, your neutral good, and your neutral evil, and it's like, all right, guys, let's go on the quest.
And it's like somehow come together. I think I did it really well in my new campaign because you're all of different alignment. Basically, you're lawful neutral. There was chaotic. There were like 3 chaotic evils, and like I believe chaotic good, I think is what Gavin is. I don't know. There was another like good in there to a degree. But there was an overwhelmingly majority chaotic evil. Yeah, I somehow got you all together. And it was like, it was, you all arrived at the same place, but you all didn't arrive together, was the issue. 3 of you arrived together, 2 of you didn't. And so you all managed to get to the same place, and the 3 that arrived together didn't even know each other. It was just like, we managed to get on the same ship. Boom, here we are. And through shared circumstance, you somehow came together as a group. You started traveling together, and then you eventually wound up with a quest together, which you have not gone on yet, but that was towards the end of the section.
Yeah. So, I think it's absolutely possible for a party to get together, but it's about creating at least a shared value, even though they have different alignments. And I think that's possible. Like, one of the blandest but easiest motivations is monetary compensation.
Which is kind of what you're going with right now.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, it's like...
whether it be through the creation of drugs or doing that fetch quest that you guys have now.
Yeah. And I mean, it might be that they have different desires for how they want to spend that money or how they even want to obtain that money. That's, I think, the means is...
bounty hunter, whatever.
Yeah, so I think that monetary compensation has a great fluidity, a lot of options. It's a versatile motivation. But I think that it's often also a simple... Yeah, it's a crutch, basically. Rather than having a cool quest where it's like, okay, I can get my character's, let's say, for lack of a better term, position advanced in the setting, you know, rather than, you know, just getting money.
Yeah, which, it's like each player... when you do that cool quest, each player has something personal to gain from it. It's like you say you could have that chaotic evil person, or chaotic or neutral evil, whatever, it doesn't matter. Gain that foothold in maybe like power, essentially. It's like I now have like a smaller group of people I control. I can send them to do stuff, wreak havoc on the town, whatever. And then you could also have that lawful good person that almost essentially now it's like, all right, I've saved this place. I'm known here. Now I have more of an influence to sort of get that law back in order.
Yeah.
And then you could just have the other people that are just like, all right, I got some money. This allows me to do this, this, and this. Woo!
Yeah. The
monetary gain's always going to be there. You can't avoid the monetary gain.
Of course. It's just that, like,
you don't want it to be the center focus.
I think it's kind of funny how D&D applies the life moral of money can't buy you happiness. Like, there's a money threshold, right? It's like the money you can buy to get the supplies that you need, like the standard mundane supplies you need. And then beyond that, there's like the magic items that you could, unless you found an absolute fortune, could never afford. So there's this big vacuum between those two. And it's like when you have that much money, it's like, well, I mean, I'm kind of just sitting on this now. I need to, and it's like good for bribery or other things like in quests, but it's going to fall flat eventually that you're giving the players so much money. It's like money inflation, basically.
Right.
That's why.
Now this is, we've gone off topic, but it doesn't matter. Right.
Yeah.
You're talking about the money inflation thing. Like, you have too much money. What do you do with it? Something that always tended to annoy me was the players in a group. They never sort of get this home base area. It's like, we can always go back to here. This place is going to be safe for the most part. This is where we set up our plans. This is where we do everything. We have our own home to stay at. They never do that. It's always, what tavern are we going to bunk in? Where are we going to meet to discuss our plans? How are we going to do this? Let's just talk on the street. Get a damn place.
Yeah.
Buy a castle, build a castle, buy a house.
I will
do
say
something.
building castles is very expensive. So that and I mean,
yeah, but when you're talking to the point of where it's like monetary inflation, I just have this money to spend. Well, I'm sitting on a pile of platinum at this point.
Yeah.
Build a castle.
But also, I think that it's a kind of an underrated idea is using cleared out or abandoned dungeons to just bunk. Like if it's say like 2 days away from town and you've cleared it, you can use it. And even so, it might be interesting for the DM to throw like a monster every so often, like, you know, how do you say, wander into your
you're now
competence.
That brings up an interesting point. It's like, say you clear out like this abandoned house or abandoned tower or something. That once, maybe the tower belonged once to this powerful mage or something, but it was overrun by, say, like ghosts or something, and you clear it out. Now there's just this empty tower here that might be partially run down. No one of the sane mind's probably going to purchase that or rebuild it into something more, because after all, it just got filled with ghosts somehow. The players could do something with that. I'm sure they could easily convince, like, the count of the town or something and be like, hey, you know that empty tower you just hired us to, like, clear out? Yeah, we did that. Can we buy that from you? Just, like, make it our own?
Yeah.
And then it's like, you have this old tower that was once run from this powerful mage. Who knows what you might find in there at that rate? Because, like, say it's still owned by the state. Looting it's not going to be the wisest idea ever. Because it's like, oh, where'd you get all that? The tower? Oh, that's state property. Give that back. Now that you own the tower, it's all yours.
Yeah. I think that getting, let's say, real estate in role-playing games can be fine in the sense that you'll have a home base. And also it's like, oftentimes, you know, carry weight's a thing too. And the fact that you have a party that's always on the move.
You're going to need some place to store your items.
Yeah.
Or you're just going to end up selling them off, and then you have that gold inflation problem again.
Yeah. And that's, nobody wants that, because, like I said, I think that makes the game kind of dry. But I think that also, let's say, having a home base also brings a party together, because one of the things that I also find when it comes to parties is it's like, yes, you guys are working together in a quest because you're sitting at the same table, but sometimes you don't feel like you're really together still. It's more like, oh, well, he's a useful
ally.
Not even like ally.
He's a useful.
What's the term?
Minion, I guess.
Not even that.
Yeah,
it's like
he's a useful companion.
Companion maybe. Like
you're not friends at that point. You're just sort of like workers, co-workers.
Yeah,
almost.
co-workers. It's like,
I like to see the party actually gain like friendship and maybe throw in like a moral quandary. Like, I love the criminals. One flaw where it's like, I'll always sell my friends out for money. I want for one session for that to actually come up, and it's like, you've built this bond with these people, you've quested for like 5 years together, he saved your life countless times, you've saved his, he's in danger, the evil person's offering you the fortune of a lifetime, are you actually going to sell him out?
Yeah, it's like, you know, you can have a character shaping moment there where he sacrifices what was what used to be his highest value for the companionship that he
Yeah.
found in these.
It was like you've made this bond together to the point where it was like your criminal ways have sort of dissolved almost, but that was like an old instinct for you. Now that it's come up, will you sell him out for money?
Yeah.
Will you do it? Like having the character flaws and stuff like that come up is always an interesting thing because it could help with party bonding in a sense almost too.
Yeah.
I like when the party begins to know each other. I like the interaction between player characters. I like seeing that happen, like having characters in character get in discussion with each other. That is always interesting to see happen, especially when they've like first met. It can be interesting and telling in a sense.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I definitely would encourage DMs, even with new players, because I know they're a little bit shy, but to get them to actually talk in character amongst themselves, rather than maybe like say talking around the table, which is oftentimes like going back to our main topic, a form of metagaming, because it's like right now you're in a combat, you get the top-down view, woo, that's really nice, but you really should actually be thinking about like how the party would be interacting at a ground level, like how would they actually be talking with each other.
Something that we're both guilty of, and I hate to say it, is when it's one person, like one player, and then there's an NPC and they're talking with, and everyone knows the same information, but you're all not there, and that one player's not saying the right thing, and you'd be like, no, ask him this, tell him that, do this, do that, do that. We're all guilty of it, and as the DM, it's annoying.
Well, yeah, but as a player character...
As a player, you're like, it needs to happen.
It's a player character, it's like, you need to ask these questions, you get so frustrated.
Yeah, you get so frustrated, and then at that rate, you're metagaming now.
Yeah, you are.
It's like, stop it. For the love of God, let him make his decisions on his own.
But it's like, maybe this guy's on his deathbed, like you just witnessed basically his murder, and he's like, this guy's talking to him, and he's saying, oh my God, what happened? And he's like telling you something. Ask the right question.
Yeah, ask the right question. It's like, no, we got a cleric. We can do whatever.
Yeah,
bring the spirit up.
That's the spell. I forgot.
You had it at that one
had
point.
it that
and you did it like 3 times on the same guy.
It was funny.
It was hilarious. And then you were aggravating the DM at that point. But it was hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good way to get information. So
it was a tactic to use.
Yeah,
absolutely. But that also brought up the point to where it was like, you didn't ask him the right questions the first time.
Yeah, true.
And everyone at the table was probably shouting at you, ask him this.
Well, no, but remember, I was like at least for the next times, I thought I did it for the first time as well. But I basically consulted the party in character, and I said, okay, what questions do we really need to be asking this?
Probably. You probably did that like the second or third time, not the first.
All right, so I do remember that because then I followed it up with what's it, augury, which is like basically is it going to be good or bad?
Is it going to be good or bad? Yeah.
So okay, but so definitely like having with NPCs. PC v NPC conversation, it's like, especially when they're alone, you need to let the players have their own moments, even though it might be kind of sour taste in other players' mouths or even the DM, because like they're not asking the right questions.
But it always allows for that character advancement.
Yeah. And it shows what that character might value more. Like,
yeah, absolutely. It'll be like it'll be that telling moment for the character. It's like, again, like that friend versus money thing. It'll show where their true intentions lie. And it'll be like, how much can you actually trust this person? If they take the money over the friend, in that instance. Say you all manage to escape, you'll have that conflict between that one person and the person who took the money, and it'll be like, what the fuck, why'd you do that? Why would you ever sell me out for the money? And then it'll lead to more of that in character thing. Say you gain information, and it'll be like, I'll tell you guys, but not him. It'll be like, let me tell you this, and then maybe someone will tell him, he'll figure it out and be like, the party's now kind of against each other in a sense.
Yeah. It's another thing too, going back to metagaming, is like when players, okay, so there's the one PC is talking to an NPC in private without the other player characters there.
The other players will use the information that the other one gained.
And it's even worse when it's like that information affects them in a bad way. It's like because the players now know that character is doing something that is not favorable to those characters that the players control. But the players can't express that through their character, or they shouldn't, because they don't know. Yeah, and it's
one of the worst things.
Yeah, it's one of the worst things because
That's why I know I did it with you during the crime campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't afraid to just individually talk to you, like one-on-one. Like I started texting you, I was like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then that brought up the annoying thing, because at that rate the other two players started thinking you were just cheating them.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it was like, how did he know? How did he know? Andrew, you're so bullshit. How did he find out? And
Basically,
and then
they were
I had
accusing me of metagaming.
they were accusing you of metagaming, and eventually I felt so guilty that you were getting yelled at. I was like, guys, I sold you out.
Yeah.
I sold you out to the guy. And they were like, what? Why would you do that? And I honestly never got the chance to fully explain myself to them, because it was like, you wouldn't understand why I was doing this. You were asking me to place trust in a man who we definitely knew was not good. But he's been straightforward with us the entire time. Or put trust in a guy that one player knew, personally on a level, that was being shady as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, can you not understand my logic behind this?
Yeah.
I don't care if I had to go assassinate a king or not. A, I'm probably going to die in the process. B, I'm probably going to die in the process of doing whatever else we had to do to stop this one guy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna die. I want to die knowing that I'm serving the person that's telling me the truth.
And that's a really good table quandary, though. Is like, it's, yes, technically you should be like keeping the party together, right?
But it was so against my character.
Exactly, your character
to side with that
that
one person, and I was going, no, I do not trust this one guy. I'm not doing this. Be at the party anymore. To then sell them out to the guy.
Yeah.
And it was like it was frustrating for me too, because the one person who was friends with the guy just couldn't understand why I didn't trust him. And it was like, he's not telling us everything. He's not telling us how he figured all this out. You've known him for like 10 years at this rate.
Yeah.
And he's showing stuff that you don't even know. How do you trust him?
Yeah.
And he was putting unwavering trust into that one NPC, and I was like, I can't do it. I just can't, with a good conscience, I cannot side with this guy.
And it's interesting to ask, like, what a table should do at that point, because, like, I mean, what you did was you kept it secret
from
the
everyone
party,
else.
and then, we already heard what unfolded from that. It's like, should you basically walk away from both situations? Because I suppose you could.
The characters themselves wouldn't do that.
Oh yeah,
the
the characters wouldn't do it, but
that's what
that's a metagaming quandary. I think.
Yeah, in the two situations that could have happened was I could have told you secretly, which I did, which I still believe was the right thing to do because it didn't influence the other two players' decisions. Or I could have said openly, it's like, I'm doing this. It's like, yo, DM, I'm gonna go to that guy and I'm gonna sell them out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, all right, now subconsciously they're gonna not trust my character anymore, which is a form of metagaming. And to avoid the metagaming, I told you secretly.
Yeah.
Which I still believe was the better situation.
I think it is, and it's a good tactic, to avoid those metagaming instances, because we were saying, like conflict of interest, it's eventually going to cause a problem with how the players role play, because, well, you can't really hide certain facts from your mind.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. But yeah, I don't. That's a very interesting metagaming quandary. I guess if you got anything to say,
put it in the comments down below, or the comments on the wherever you're listening to this. And I want to thank you for listening/watching the first episode of the new and improved Dicey Discussions. Thank you, Andrew, for once again joining me.
Absolutely,
it's always a pleasure, and see you next time.